The next one starts getting into some graphing. We're going to do some graphs like some pie charts and histograms and stem and leaf plots and box and whisker charts and fun stuff like that. So just some basic graphing things to remind you of. Find the y-intercept of the line. The y-intercept of my line, if I have it in the form of y equals mx plus b, is that n number, right? The number in front of my x happens to be my slope. So the y-intercept of my line on this first one, 6.5. My y-intercept on number 14 would be,
0.6.
don't forget the negative, negative 0.6. Technically your y-intercept is when your x is 0, and if x is 0, I just get the n number, right? So on number 15, what is my y-intercept? 6.6, exactly. You guys already knew that. The next one then wants you to find both the x-intercept and the y-intercept of the line given your equation. Round your answer to 2 decimal places. Normally, if I'm going to find my x and my y-intercept, I'm going to put it in standard form first. So if everything's all on the same side, I'm just going to move my number to the other side. So I'm going to write it as 7.2x plus 8.7y equals, that's going to become a positive 6.4. I could leave it where it is, but then I'd end up moving it all the time. X-intercept and y-intercept. For my x-intercept, the y is 0. For my y-intercept, the x is 0. So what I do when I'm doing my x-intercept is basically I just cover up the y, because if that's 0, it's gone. I'm going to take this n number divided by my coefficient of my x. So to find my x-intercept, I end up taking 6.4 divided by the 7.2. I'm not going to do that in my head. I'm going to let you do that on your calculator. And you came up with you get 0.88888888, right?
Yeah.
We want to round our answer to 2 decimal places. That means 2 places after the decimal. So we would round that off to 0.89, right? Now on my y-intercept, I'm putting 0 in for the x. So if I cover up the x term, again, all I'm going to end up doing is taking that n number divided by my coefficient of my y. So for my y-intercept, 6.4 divided by my 8.7. Again, I just use my calculator, unless you really like to do long division. If you divide 6.4 by 8.7 on your calculator, you get
Like 7.5.
725?
3.
735. So if I round that off to 2 decimal places, I would use 0.74 then, because I have to round that one up, right? So quick way of finding your x and y intercept, once it's in standard form, your x-intercept, you're going to take the n number divided by the coefficient of the x. My y-intercept, the n number divided by the coefficient of the y. Unless you really want to put 0 in and all that fun stuff. So 17, same kind of thing. I want to find my x and y intercept. First thing I'm going to do is move this over so I have it in standard form. So I have 9.9x minus 2.2y equals negative, I almost can read my decimal, so I'm going to put it in there again, negative 4.5. So what am I going to do to find my x-intercept?
Negative 4.5 divided by 9.9.
Yep. Negative 4.5 divided by the 9.9 that's in front of my x. Y is 0, it's gone, so I just end up dividing. And so, if I divide that on my calculator, I get
0.45.
negative 0.45. Everybody getting that? I'm assuming you rounded it off already. Negative 0.45. To find my y-intercept, what would I do? You guys are already busy doing it. I'm going to take my negative 4.5 and I'm going to divide it by the negative 2.2, which is in front of my y. And I would end up with what? 2.05. My marker doesn't want to put it exactly where I think it's going to go, and it always looks like it's in a weird spot. 2.05 is what you should get when you round that off to 2 decimal places. Go ahead and do number 18. Yeah, exactly. So you probably started by moving this to the other side, so you'd have a positive 9.2 over there. My x-intercept, I did 9.2 divided by 2.2, so my answer was, I know you had answers, I walked by and looked. 4.18. On the second part of that, for your y-intercept, you're going to have your 9.2 divided by the negative 2.4, which was in front of our y, and our answer then was negative 3.83. All right, any questions on any of those? I went through them quick because I assumed you pretty much already knew what you were doing there. All righty, I'm going to let you go ahead and work for a bit. On your pie chart, you want to have everything done from day 1 or day 2. Also, if you didn't get your guided reading and your questions from chapter 1 done, you want to get those done because we're going to talk about chapter 1 on our next homework page.